All right. Hey, here comes another One Take Thursday. Today's topic is going to be a little bit of a risk for me. It's kind of something that I'm not entirely sure how this is going to go, which is probably the nature of One Take Thursday. You're getting to see the raw thoughts. I just wrapped up a webinar, a workshop where we talked about total voice of the customer. But what's the point of talking about total voice of the customer? We found $50 million in the company's couch cushions. Yeah. Did we get a lottery ticket? Did we scratch that? No, 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 no. It really was a discussion on total voice of the customer. Now, first things first, be sure and go subscribe to CX Passport, the YouTube channel there. I would love to hear from you too. It's one that click the button. Definitely want you to click that subscribe button. But I also want to hear, what topics do you want to hear about on One Take Thursday? What would be interesting to you? What do you think about this topic? What are your thoughts? Let me know down there in the comments below. So not everybody that watches this will have been a part of the webinar. So let me just start with a basic overview of what we talked about. But I want you to hang on to the end, because there was a really interesting question that was asked at the end of the webinar. And that's one of the things that I love about a webinar, right? Is that there's somebody there who's asking questions and can kind of give you some really interesting ideas on where to take new ideas, right? Well, basic overview is, if you heard nothing else, right? Stop, survey, and score. Start, listen, and act, and engage. I've added a little bonus item. Start, listen, and act, and engage. And look, everything that I'm talking about is available at totalvoc.com. There's some materials there to download and yada, yada, and all that kind of stuff that kind of give you a jump start on your voice of the customer program. And so what is it? It's the idea of listen and act and engage. Listen is across two dimensions. To listen to the customer, you have to collect what they say across all the listening posts, not just surveys. Lord help me, voice of the customer is not survey. You don't have to listen to anything else as long as you hear that. But the voice of the customer is not survey. Across all the listening posts, not just how a customer says what they are interested in or what they might feel or think, but also what they do. Observe their behavior. Shared a little story about how behavior wasn't quite what the customer said that they wanted. They acted in a completely different way. And then once you've listened, you got to analyze it, right? How do you actually understand all of this data? Not just what are this individual data channel telling me, but then what do all my data channels tell me when I integrate them together, so that I'm considering what is the impact of the results of a particular website change or a new product release or the hospitality changes that we've implemented in our hotel. That's listen. Act is the external closed loop feedback, and the internal closed loop feedback. External, restoring relationships, not fixing issues, restoring relationships. Internal, improving your company. And then engage. Engage is the actual employee engagement side of it. I think that gets lost in a lot of voice of the customer programs. Listen and act shows up a lot, but the engage, how do you pull voice of the customer into the employee engagement mechanisms that you have? And if you don't have them, how do you use voice of the customer to inspire what those engagements might be, to inspire your employees and coach them in the positive way? How do you improve them? How do you help them elevate what they're already doing today so that they can advance their career goals? And this really did result in a client growing $50 million of revenue by applying total voice of the customer. Why couch cushions? What's the point of that? This wasn't a new product. It wasn't a discount. It wasn't a new marketing thing or an improved sales team or a completely new business line. It was simply listening and acting and engaging. Those things ended up resulting in $50 million of revenue. It's not fluff or nutter. It actually happened, and it's real total voice of the customer. Now, that's the overview. But how about that question? And I love this question. And it was from a fellow CX practitioner, but they were saying, look, how can I help a client who is asking me to justify their voice of the customer program, justify the cost behind going after a voice of the customer program? And it sounds on its surface kind of, return on investment type conversation around customer experience. And as I thought about it, because the questions are kind of catching you off guard, but as I was sitting there thinking about it, I thought around it in sort of two main themes. And one is, get real on the business goal. Like a voice of the customer program is not the goal. A better voice of the customer program is not the goal. Lord help us, a voice of the customer tool is not the goal. All of those are good things, though. Every piece of that is good. But so what? It's business results are the goal. So going after business results, what business results are you seeking to achieve with your voice of the customer program is what I would spend time with that client. And then I backed away from that and realized, actually, no, I'd rather just want to know what are the business goals you're seeking to achieve. Let's just start there. I know it sounds so cliche, but it is amazing how so often we get in these conversations around just let's talk voice of the customer. Again, for what? Like I said on the webinar, I've started calling myself a business growth consultant instead of a customer experience consultant because of the so what. It's for the business goals. And so understanding what those business goals are. And then the other thing came to mind, and I think a lot of it is it's a definitional thing. I think it's what I talked about near the beginning, and that is that too many people hear voice the customer and think survey. Why am I spending all this money on a voice the customer tool to send out great surveys and see these scores in my quarterly business review? Who cares? No, let's redefine what voice of the customer is. Let's understand what delivering a great customer experience is. Let's redefine what listening to the customer is. Let's redefine what a closed loop feedback is. How do we engage our employees? That it's not just surveys, and that's what a voice of the customer program is, but it's actually, shocker, it is a full approach to voice of the customer, hence total voice of the customer. So I think it's that. I think that we really are tripping up a little bit on the definitions that people are wondering, why would I justify all of this spend if I'm just putting out surveys? Let's redefine the definitions. And then let's get into what are those business goals. No, I think the webinar went really well. I hope that the attendees got something out of it, and I hope that they can take that into their own practices, either whether as customer experience professionals or as business professionals, because the principles apply regardless. Hope you enjoyed another element of One Take Thursday. Be sure and go out, hit that subscribe button. It's right down there, still getting my orientation. But go out there and subscribe to the CX Passport YouTube channel. And again, let me hear from you in those comments below. What topics would you want to hear? What would you want to discuss here on One Take Thursday? I'd love to take your comments, react to it, and bring that into another week's episode. What do you think about this one? What are your views? Let me hear what you had to say. Until next week, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.